Disco Elysium!
I got you there. I got you there. Nah, I'm just joshing with you. For the uninitiated, Scarlet Hollow is an episodic visual novel set in the beautiful state of North Carolina. The developers are real married adults who founded Black Tabby Games and are behind another one of my favorite games of all time, Slay the Princess, which I'll definitely talk about one day in full detail. On a side note, I'd really recommend you buy at least one of the games the studio has put out if you're into games where choices matter. I know Telltale has been making games of this sort for years now, but Black Tabby has a style so recognizable that you might as well just put their games in a whole other genre.
It wasn't for touching kids, was it?
There are so many things I could talk about in this game. The art direction is incredible with its depictions of rural Appalachia. The sound design is incredibly immersive with a wonderful soundtrack by Brandon Boone paired with ambient nature noises that are more or less threatening. And finally, the characters are all so well thought out and written that the Holler feels like an actual town with a rich history that totally has nothing to do with you. While the game does flesh out these characters significantly with every passing episode, I'm really only going to cover the events of episode 1 because 1, I don't want to spoil more than I should. You should totally go try out the game for yourself. The first chapter is absolutely free on Steam. And 2, I want to leave as much of the story undiscovered in this video because people won't be able to call me out if I repeat myself in the future. Because yes, when all 7 episodes are out, I will be making a long-form video on this game. I know that it's only been
1 minute 37,
and I've done it twice already, but let me reiterate, please play through at least the first episode. It's available on Steam for free, and if my computer can run it, I know yours can too. While I do summarize the events of the first episode, I'll gloss over so many things and know that I won't be doing full justice to the source material. With all that e-begging out of the way, let's get to the part of the video that actually matters. The first thing you'll do upon starting a new playthrough of Scarlet Hollow after putting down your name and hometown is choose 2 perks out of the 7 presented. Right off the bat, you learn that not every path can be explored, and even if it's in a meta way at the moment, this is a recurring element of the game. Each perk is incredibly tempting, some more than others, and the UI is kind enough to present both pros and, in like 2 specific cases, also cons, just to add that extra incentive to really think about how this choice could affect the playthrough. As of recording this, I've gone through the available episodes twice so far, and believe me when I say that you're going to want to experiment with the various perks because some offer very different insight when compared to the rest. No matter what though, certain events will always be fated to happen. Like the Sigma male I am, the 2 perks I chose on the first playthrough were Talk to Animals and Hot. While I will forever have 0 regrets about the choices I made, I will admit that at times Mystical Perk would have aided drastically with the mystery solving elements of Scarlet Hollow. While I love receiving compliments that don't affect me in real life, immediately after meeting a new character and conversing with the various fauna around the Holler, I still knew that different perks would lead to incredibly different interpretations of various events, with the whole picture only being available through multiple playthroughs or just watching or walkthrough on YouTube if you're boring. This limited choice of perks is a great incentive to just replay the game and actually try to solve the mystery because you always know that you're never going to have the full picture. Right after choosing perks, the player is thrown onto a bus which has the Holler at the end of the line. This being the wonderful realm of rural Appalachia, a kind stranger talks your ear off about various events from his life. This is a really nice way to ease into the game because it serves as a start to the tutorial stage of sorts. No matter what you say, no matter what perks you may have chosen, the man will never stop talking, which is a nice way to just say that no matter what you choose, your choices don't matter. Just kidding, they do matter, and the bus stops for the man, and as you're leaving, he offers you his wet nuts. Just as you thought your choices didn't matter, you're faced with the second important decision of the playthrough, as you can choose to accept the peanuts, refuse them out of politeness, impoliteness, a peanut allergy, or you could just eat them on the spot. As the text box tells you, sometimes picking a dialogue option establishes new facts about who you are. Depending on your choice, you could now have the peanuts in your Sylladex, or you could have a deathly allergy which forces you to avoid certain foods. Very sad day for all the peanut butter lovers out there. The bus finally stops at the Holler, and your estranged cousin Tabitha is there to pick you up. While the setting is different, I do still see this as a part of the tutorial segment because it's here that you learn how certain dialogue options could garner negative reactions from other characters. To be fair, there isn't much that will get Tabitha to actually open up at this point, but you can definitely choose certain options that will get her to frown even more. You arrive at the Scarlet Estate, your cousin shows you around the mansion.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?
and after she leaves, you're more or less done with the tutorial and seemingly gain full control over what you're doing. I forgot to mention this earlier, but the whole reason you're in Scarlet Hollow is because your aunt Perlan Scarlet, or Tabitha's mother, has passed away and you're here for the funeral. Your mother cut herself off from this part of the family before she died, so that's why you aren't close to your cousin. That, and she's a certified #girlboss who wants nothing to do with the likes of you. Your Scarlet predecessors are pretty central to the town's history since the Scarlets own the mine, which is the biggest source of income for the town, besides tourism, I guess. The fact that it's a very small town and that your family is so influential means that a lot of the inhabitants know of you despite you not even knowing this town existed just a few days ago. It sure is great to be home. This is all the exposition you really need at the moment, so let's continue. The quote-unquote tutorial is great as it features scripted events that no matter what you can't avoid, important decisions that will influence other parts of the playthrough no matter how far down they may be, and it shows the player that not all characters can be interacted with in the same way. Okay, so funny story, while I was writing the script, I decided to replay the game to record some footage and chose a combination of the powerful build and book smart perks. Turns out, powerful build completely nullifies the rest of my video because you can actually just save both at the end of episode 1, so this is slightly awkward. Then again, the perk selection screen does tell you that certain perks open paths and dialogue options. I guess that means that maybe certain sacrifices don't have to be made. It's fine though, I'm sure that eventually PB will lead to making the town church collapse or something, so it cancels out at some point. So for the rest of the video, let's pretend that you as the viewer have taken a combination of 2 perks that doesn't feature the powerful build.
This is fucking bullshit.
Also, I know hardcore mode nullifies the effects of the perk, but hardcore mode just feels like a cheat code if I'm talking about consequences of actions, so just like powerful build, it doesn't exist until I want it to exist again. So you're alone at the estate. You've probably explored as much as you could by making a sandwich, petting Fufu, settling into your probably haunted room, and venturing out into the garden. As cool as it would be to rest on a Monday, there ain't no rest for the wicked, so your only real option is to head down to town. Upon arriving at Main Street, you meet Stella and her geriatric pug, Gretchen. They're both incredibly friendly, and Stella invites you to the diner, her treat.
We can control the Pentagon.
Now you're faced with another important decision, as you could choose to hang out with Stella and meet characters like Avery while learning about her YouTube channel, you know, and all the humble bragging that comes with that. Or you could visit the other buildings in town, like the library or the general store, and meet characters like Kanika or Oscar. If you can't be asked to explore, you could also just head back to the estate, but why would you do that on your first playthrough? So there are 2 real options here, so I'll just flip a coin to see which one I talk about first. Heads is for going to the diner with Stella, while Tails is for not going to the diner and visiting literally every other place in town before going home by sunset. Aww. So you refuse Stella's kind offer, or just lie to her I guess, and explore the rest of Main Street. You run into Kanika, the goth girl running the general store who hates your family's history, and Oscar, the young man in charge of running the town's library. His teenage daughter Rosalina and her friends are also there, but just like the rest of the characters you've met after Stella, they take more of a backseat role in this chapter. By the time you're done exploring, the sun begins to set, so you decide to cut your losses and head home. Stella can wait because you've got an entire week in town and your cousin is not willing to entertain you for that time. Who cares if the opening text of the game is really ominous? I'm sure that nothing bad can happen in the quaint town of Scarlet Hollow. Yeah, come on, we all knew this was going to happen. Of course you're not getting off the hook that easy. You left Stella alone in the diner after such a generous offer, so now it's time for some divine retribution. You're jumped by this Appalachian mountain lion, which are supposedly extinct, and to add to this mystery, this feline seems to have many unnatural large lumps across its body. When it pounces you, you both roll down the track, which separates you for a moment, and just as it's about to pounce again, someone shoots the beast, which causes it to flee. It's here that you meet Duke, the god-fearing, gun-wielding farmer of Scarlet Hollow. He's also maybe named after a university and hates Tar Heels, whatever that may mean. You can still try to get back to the estate after the encounter, but Duke, being the local tracker he is, strongly advises against it, which means that for the time being, you're forced into the hunt.
Shut up, bitch!
The 2 of you then venture out further into the wilderness to hear something moving in the distance. Instead of being John Carpenter's The Appalachian Thing, it's just Stella and Gretchen, who seem to be filming a vlog in the woods. Oh no. She doubts your claims of mountain lion apparitions because she seemingly disproved their existence in a previous video, and she believes your attack was more supernatural. During this interaction, you learn things that would have been said no matter what happened previously. You learn that Stella's parents are dead, and that Duke completely disapproves of Stella's research no matter how passionate she may seem. If you happen to choose the mystical perk, you'd also get a little more insight into this event, and it really serves to heighten a looming sense of dread that's been present from the start. Something fated has been set in stone, and somebody here is going to die tonight. While something like this was expected to happen with the ominous preface of the game, actually confirming these suspicions is something else. Keep in mind that only the mystical perk has this line, by the way, so if that isn't incentive to try out different builds, I don't know what is. Sure, other perks offer similar warnings, but they read more like gut feelings that stem from inexperience in nature rather than a real explicit premonition. So Stella says she's heading back to town after Duke requested she did, but her being who she is, paired with the mystical warning, tells you that this isn't going to be the last time you see her tonight. You could choose to stay with Duke or join Stella on her way back, but know that at this point you're not escaping these woods. Not that you are going to at any moment. I don't want to get too deep into branching paths, but know that if you stay with Duke, you'll just venture out further to find that mountain lion, and if you choose to ditch him to join the Yuz, you'll circle back into the woods because she needs to find footage of a skunk ape. No matter what happens, you'll have a calm moment at the Overlook to learn some more about your companion, and no matter what, all paths will converge around one of Duke's missing chickens. No primate looking thing out in the woods tonight, because instead we have a chicken who, with the Talk to Animals perk, we find out is rambling about a form of cyclical rebirth. Seeing this wonder of nature, Stella decides to pull out her camera and start vlogging, much to the chagrin of Duke. While the two argue about the ethics of filming animal corpses, unseen presences surround your group as whispers originally thought to be ambient sound grow louder with every breath. The others notice the chorus of whispers, which prompts Duke to grab his chicken and start running. Everyone follows until Duke is cornered by one of the forest homunculi and Gretchen is snatched away by another. This event is what I've been building up to. No matter what you decided to do on Monday afternoon, you were always going to end up in the woods having to choose between helping Duke line up his shot by shining the flashlight on him or grabbing Gretchen before she's taken away like that clown in Scary Movie 2. I know I've said the peanut and perk decisions were important, and while they were, this is the first one where your choices could be the difference between life and death for another character. Sure, the ominous mystical warning made it seem like the choice was going to be between Duke and Stella, but honestly, having Gretchen be a potential sacrifice makes a lot more sense, considering the many ways in which her death would affect Stella in the future. If Stella were to get snatched, there wouldn't be much room for growth, especially if you don't have the Talk to Animals perk. This life or death situation forces the player to weigh the pros and cons of sacrificing one of the two characters, and despite there being a seemingly obvious choice, just a few seconds of reflection make you realize just how much of a butterfly effect each choice could have. Duke seems to be the obvious choice at first, as most of us probably believe a human life is more valuable than a dog's, no matter how old that human may be. He also saved your life from a mountain lion earlier, and even though it's his fault you ended up in the woods, he still has your safety as one of his top priorities. If you decide to stick with him instead of quote-unquote going back to town with Stella, you'll also have more information on him, such as his love for his wife and son, his pride for his large pumpkin, and his surprising lack of hatred for Stella, seeing as she seems to represent a lot of things he dislikes with her YouTube channel. Also, he's one of the few people in town who doesn't actively dislike your cousin. Despite fitting into the stereotype of old, likely racist farmer from rural America, he's shown to be just a caring dude who loves his town, his family, his farm, and life in general. Sure, the music that accompanies him makes it feel like you're about to hear a slur that hasn't been said since the 18th century, but it doesn't take much exploration to understand that he's a good person. Letting him die would serve no real purpose because he's done nothing inherently wrong so far and doesn't seem like he would. If you spend time with him, you'll quickly find out that he's harmless despite his rugged exterior. And even if he doesn't save your life and you don't spend time with him, you'll still get most of this information from Stella anyway. Gretchen, on the other hand, is a lot harder to talk about in a vacuum because 1, she's just a dog unless you can talk to animals, and 2, as terrible as this may sound, she's really just an extension of Stella. Even if you can't talk to animals, you'll quickly find out that Gretchen and Stella have been together for a really long time, longer than most pug-human relationships. And it's not like a Peter and Brian Griffin situation where one lets the other get beat up every other episode. Stella and Gretchen are incredibly close. Stella probably knows more about Gretchen than any other character in this godforsaken town, and they can't even properly communicate. One of the first things you'll learn about Stella, no matter what route you take, is that she's an orphan. You don't necessarily know why yet because she's very emotionally closed off behind her chipper personality, but you know that Gretchen is her only quote-unquote living family member. Even though the pug is already nearing the end of its lifespan, Stella made it clear when you met her that she wants to spend as much of her time as possible with the dog, likely because death would only cause a loneliness that one simply can't recover from. If you hate Stella and don't care about her for whatever incomprehensible reason, you could just sacrifice Gretchen, but then you realize that you could choose to save a tiny dog in actual mortal peril, or an experienced hunter armed with a loaded shotgun aimed at the horrors beyond human comprehension. No matter what you think of Stella, some part of you will be compelled to help Gretchen because in this moment, she has no way of defending herself. Stella is completely frozen and Duke has his own problems to take care of. I know that pugs aren't the most popular dog breed out there, but I'd like to believe that even if we don't care for the dog itself, seeing it be defenseless against a stronger creature would compel one to save it, especially if the other option involves aiding a man with a gun already locked on another beast. No matter what happens, one of the cornered characters die, and the night ends with Stella trying to comfort the player by reiterating that it's not your fault, which is true to a certain extent. Now is the time to talk about the elephant in the room, the perk that would allow you to doom guide the homunculi away and save both characters, preventing any meaningful sacrifices. While it nullifies the tough decision making by letting you power your way to a solution that mostly satisfies everyone, this is likely the last time this perk will help you this way. Every chapter so far works in a way that one specific perk will prevent a game-changing sacrifice to be made. So no matter how you decide to play the game, eventually you'll have to make a tough decision, and while the stakes aren't exactly the same, your choice almost always separates life and death. Scarlet Hollow understands how nuanced decision making is, especially when it involves other living beings, as whether you like it or not, everyone you know is a main character, some maybe more than others. Even if you get an easy way out at times, the limit of 2 perks make it so that at least 5 times you're going to have to make sacrifices that you'll definitely face consequences for. While it seems like I hate the fact that certain perks can prevent sacrifices, making the player feel like they're in control at times helps make the experience more immersive, as if death just kept following the player every episode, the survivors would have little time to actually grow and the player would feel like bonding with other characters is pointless because of their possibly short lifespans. Downtime needs to be available if you're going to make a story that revolves around deaths and choices, and Black Tabby Games understands that perfectly. I know I've mentioned multiple times that you have a lot of options in the game which incentivizes replays, but I've also talked about how futile it is to avoid certain events like heading into the woods on Monday night. I'd like to believe that every scripted event that prompts a sacrifice has a lore-related reason for occurring, especially because of all the mentions of fate that have been thrown around. Going back to the mystical perk, the narration of the bus stop trip mentions that Scarlet Hollow has a certain pull on the player, something beyond the funeral beckon for your arrival, and it sets the scene for a much older and deeper mystery than the one anticipated at first. Fate is really abstract in this episode, but as the story progresses, it becomes more clear that the Scarlet family has some sort of supernatural connection with this town, which brings forth all sorts of tragedy upon the small North Carolina town. I also think that these scripted events in which all paths converge have a lore reason too, because why else would a game so focused on having branching paths have a large part of the tutorial be a conversation in which the player's input doesn't even matter? Though you have freedom to make your choices and it's possible to romance certain characters, you're going to be confronted with life-changing decisions that you will likely not be ready for. And every time one of these decisions come up, the stakes will be raised and the choice will be harder. A lot of the times, the information that's always brought up no matter what helps elevate the stakes too, which is important to know. But even though there's a lot of information given, trust me, you need to replay the game multiple times in vastly different ways to get the full picture, and even then, some detective work is needed. This type of interactivity and stakes is exactly what sets this game apart from others. The interwoven paths are so well incorporated that I can't help but just praise and glaze this game as much as I can. I guess the game was right when it said that you won't be able to save everyone, you might not even be able to save yourself. This is just the magic of Scarlet Hollow. With that, I thank you for watching, like and subscribe for more life-changing content, and goodbye. Please play Scarlet Hollow.